All right, so let's talk about kayak weight capacity. All right, guys, so listen, over the past couple of years, kayaks have gotten bigger and bigger and more outfitted, and motor companies have made better offerings for kayaks. We've gotten into multiple graphs. We've gotten availability for better batteries, more battery sizes, more battery configurations. We've got both great bow mount solutions and stern mount solutions, and because of that, there is this tendency to believe that because the kayak weight capacity is 600 pounds or 700 pounds, that you can just put anything you want to on a fishing kayak. And to be honest with you, as we're sitting here rigging Austin's boat for the last couple days, it's really become abundantly clear to me as we have conversations that as we rig in the boat, we're very mindful of where we're placing certain things. But that comes from years of on-the-water testing. As Austin set up his PWR 129, he actually moved things around and took a 25-pound dumbbell and moved it to different places in the boat. And I just don't think that the vast majority of people are taking the time to do that. So I felt like it was important to open up the dialogue for this conversation in this video. So feel free to, light up the comment section so that we can make a more comprehensive video down the road. But here's what I wanted to talk about. If you're getting into the point where you're putting a bow mount motor on your boat, and then you're going to slap a bunch of electronics up front, and then you're going to throw a few batteries on it, you really have to start thinking about balance. So for example, if you're putting a motor on the front, you've really got to seriously consider doing what Austin did and run your wiring to the back so that you can put your batteries in your black pack or put them in the back of the boat. Now, one thing that I do want to bring up, some of the more popular fishing kayaks that have been balanced for all of this outfitting are ones that have the ability to trim your seat, because the number one weight on your boat for the most part is going to be the angler. Whether you're 300 pounds like I am or 180 pounds like Austin is. You're 180 now? 190, 190 pounds. I give up a lot of capacity just by me being in the boat, and the only way I can compensate for that is to move the seat around or, back up off the groceries a little bit, and I'm working on that. But if you're like me, and more of you are like me than probably the rest of the world, is especially if you're old enough to afford the better stuff, or if you're doing well enough to afford the better stuff, you're usually a little bit more on in your years, and we put on a few extra pounds. One of the things that I'm seeing right now is that there's a lot of people that are rigging in their garage. It's frozen, it's cold, it's fishing's not great, and so this is the time that, as kayak fishermen, we like to tinker. The new boats have come out, the new products are coming out, the income tax check is coming back, and all of those things. But what I want to caution you against is using the weight capacity number as your holy grail, and also not thinking about the fact that that weight capacity number, according to many manufacturers, includes the actual boat itself. So you have to take the weight of the boat, subtract it from that. You have to take the weight of yourself and subtract it from that. And I think a lot of people miscalculate the weight of certain things. For example, if you put a bow mount on your boat, you forget about the weight of the mount itself. If you put the batteries in there, you forget about the weight of the batteries because they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. Now, boats perform better with battery weight that's underslung, so the lower you can get them in the boat. So for example, with this XTR, if you can get them down in the bottom of the hull to where their weight is underslung, then it's not going to have as much of an impact on the performance of the watercraft. So that being said, I just wanted to have this conversation to tell you to be very mindful of your weight capacity. Now, Austin's a big fan of throwing scupper plugs in his boat. I personally don't like scupper plugs, except for in a couple of places like in the tank well, because when I stand up, I kind of want the boat to float a little bit. I understand that it's a water sport, so I don't mind getting my feet wet, because what happens is when I squat that boat, it's not as susceptible to the wind. And because I'm a shallow water sight fisherman, I like to punch and flip and cast and sight cast and that kind of fishing. I like that a little bit. If you're gonna put scupper plugs in your boat, don't count on the weight capacity that you get from the scupper plugs. And I would highly recommend having a lanyard or something attached to them so that if you do get swamped by a boat, you can get that water out of your boat. When you do the volume calculation on a boat like the BONAFIDE XTR, the New Canoe Unlimited, the Native Titan, if that boat fills up with water at 8 pounds a gallon, you can exceed the capacity of the boat and have that thing succumb to the water weight really quickly. So if you're going to use scuppers, think about a plan for getting those scuppers out of there and vacating that water, you know, pretty quickly. But don't count on the weight capacity increase that you get from putting the scuppers in, because by and large, at some point in your kayak fishing career, you're going to take some water over the side. You're going to have a bunch of water in there, and if you count on that extra capacity and it's not there, you're going to put yourself in a world of hurt. The big takeaway from this is, just because boats don't have the capacity, but just because the boats have the capacity, doesn't mean you need to cram everything you can on that boat to fill it up. You know, I will raise my hand and say that we're probably guilty of that, because we are blessed with the opportunity to have everything from an entry-level RS-117 and go out on paddling trips all the way up to outfitting these things to look like mini tuna trawlers and spaceships, especially if that knucklehead behind the camera is the one whose boat we're talking about. And again, I love that pushing the envelope, but when you push that envelope, don't push the envelope so far that you put yourself at risk. You know, don't put yourself at the point to where you're right on that edge or that threshold of what that watercraft can sustain, and you're not going to get maximum performance out of it. So as a little dude like that behind the camera starts to outfit his boat, he can think about it differently, because he's got, you know, 100 pounds of capacity to give up just in his weight. One other thing I seriously want to advise you to consider: if you're looking at motors and batteries and graphs and all that, seriously consider a watercraft, whether it's this BONAFIDE XTR or whatever you decide, that has the ability to trim the seat fore and aft, because the ability to trim the seat fore and aft moves the biggest thing on the boat, you, to the position where you can maximize the performance of that watercraft. And if you can't do that, you're stuck with, you've got to move everything else around the boat to balance the load. You can't move the load, being you, around to help balance the load. So first and foremost, I would consider a watercraft or a boat or a kayak, whatever you want to call it, that has that ability to trim the load, the biggest weight on the boat, no matter how you slice it, which is you, the angler. And then also be very mindful of balancing your load. It would be very easy with these electronics and this bow mount to just stick all the batteries right here. There's a great battery compartment underneath here, but it wouldn't balance well. You have way too much weight in the bow of that boat, and then pretty much to fish with it, Austin would have to scoot his seat all the way to the back, and still would probably be riding around with the tail up in the air. So be sure that you understand what your manufacturer's weight capacity rating means. As bad as I hate to say it, and as hard as I've tried to beat the drum and push the issue, there is no standardization in the paddle sports community right now. BONAFIDE does it one way. Native and BONAFIDE with Big Adventures does it one way. Johnson Outdoors does it another way. Crescent Kayak does it another way. Jackson does it another way. Hobie does it another way. So you really need to make sure that you engage in a conversation. Make sure you research it through the website, or talk to your local pro shop dealer about what exactly does the weight capacity for the watercraft that you're buying mean, and how much usable capacity does that leave you with. So again, y'all do me a favor and comment below and let me know what other questions you have about this topic. But I do feel like this is the #1 safety item that we face as kayak fishermen, is kayak anglers that are unknowingly getting out there and overloading their boat, or putting it in such an unbalanced performance profile that they're inevitably going to end up in a situation where the watercraft succumbs to a wave or boat traffic or something, and it's just not going to be able to be recovered from, and you're going to potentially have a total loss for that watercraft. Because the more and more weight you put on there, and the closer you are to the weight capacity, the less recoverable that watercraft is, should you end up capsizing it or having it swamped by a passing watercraft or a wave or whatever situation you find yourself in. So y'all do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. It really helps out the algorithm, helps out the channel. Leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, I'm Chad Hoover with Kayak Bass Fishing. If you're looking to get in on the exciting sport of kayak fishing yourself, check out kayakbassfishing.com. Yeah! Boom! Oh yes!
What a freaking toad.
So whether you want to find out more about competitive kayak fishing and kayak fishing tournaments, or just looking to learn more to make yourself a better angler, head over to kayakbassfishing.com and join today.